10% that are installed. That's a shocker. So what's going on? Why is that happening? Right? And to me, I think it's a case of lack of understanding, because SD-WAN means so many things to so many people. There's 62 vendors claiming to offer SD-WAN solutions in the market space today. There's firewall companies and cloud solution, obviously the router companies, etc., that are saying, we've got an SD-WAN solution for you, Mr. Customer. Don't worry, we'll manage it for you. We'll help you. It's going to be fine. And the customers are saying, what? So with that as a premise, what next? What's going to happen? And for us at FatPipe Networks, it really is about the S in that SD-WAN. And think about it for a second here, folks. To us, it really means it's all about the software, which is now defining the network. I think if you only go back 5 or even 7 years, you'll find that the proprietary hardware and software solutions were the way to go, right? You had to have a certain router, you have to have certain software to go with those routers, or whatever it was that you needed to install to make your wide area network functional. Well, that's no longer an issue, because software works across just about any kind of hardware these days. And it works with different carriers. So you can have an AT&T line, you can have a Comcast line, you can have a Verizon line. It doesn't matter. The software should be able to recognize this and perform the function that you want, which is giving access to your users across the network. Bandwidths are becoming cheaper. So obviously the software needs to be able to work with different varying bandwidths, because at the end of the day, it's about identifying and manage your traffic on the network. Oh, and the last thing, which is more important, it's really easy to upgrade software, not so much hardware. I remember the good old days when you used to go to Best Buy and buy Microsoft Office Suite. And 6 months later, you had to either buy the upgrade pack or get a new CD and upgrade your software. But nowadays, everybody buys Office 365. It's constantly being upgraded, because I know I've got it, and every week there's some little thing in the right-hand corner of my screen saying there are updates available. But it's a lot easier to do. It's very simple. Software is easy to update and upgrade. Hardware is not. So what does this mean? And again, this is based on research that we've done. What does the modern wide area network really need? And this is based on research by Forrester, by the way. And what they did is they went to several hundred customers and said, what are the factors that are affecting your business today in terms of the WAN? And what is it about SD-WAN that concerns you? And I think if I was live with you folks and face-to-face, I'm pretty sure any WAN administrators say the number one issue that affects us today is security. I don't think there's any argument in that. But this research was really interesting, because the number 2 issue I found very, very interesting. It was the skills. The biggest issue to implement change to your network was the skills to manage this change, especially SD-WAN. So that was the number 2 issue. I found that fascinating. Of course, there was bandwidth, and everybody's going to the cloud these days. Let's face it. I mean, there's a lot of momentum and a definite drive by businesses to utilize cloud-based applications. And the growth of AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud is enormous. And I know that I was doing some basic research on my own, and Amazon's a big company. We know Amazon's a large company. It's a $200 billion company. What I didn't know is that AWS brings in more than 60% of their net revenue. I think it's nearly $100 billion business just from AWS. I found that fascinating. So what does that all mean, though? I mean, okay, so you as a business owner, you want to put a lot of more information into the cloud. You need bandwidth. You need some skills to manage your network, or do you? And then, of course, a lot of businesses are looking at utilizing voice over IP or video into their network. Well, that traffic is bigger than normal traffic, for want of a better word. That takes up a lot of space. That puts a lot of pressure on your network. Okay. By the way, here's some interesting facts for you. This is a good old edge device slide that I like to talk about because I just find it interesting that there's 24 billion devices connected today to the internet. 24 billion. That's already 3 devices for every single human on the planet. That's fascinating to me. I was at a recent presentation with a rather large customer that they called AT&T, and the director of the division I was there visiting said he's got 14 devices that accesses the internet just in his house. 14. And he started reeling them off, right? Your garage door, the lights. He's got 2 kids. They each had 3 or 4 devices, and it went on and on and on. Well, by simply the end of next year, this is going to double. So what does that mean to you as a business owner? Well, that means that there's going to be enormous pressure on your suppliers of your bandwidth, right? And you need to save bandwidth with this particular slide says distributed computing, and the edge devices are becoming intelligent devices. So they are computing at the edge and then providing the information back to the business. Well, what does that mean? That means more traffic. That means more traffic. So here's what I think the network of the future may look like. And frankly, I think we're already there. Users want instant information. They want to be able to make instant decisions. And if things go wrong, they want instant remediation. I really don't think that that's news to most folks, right? And this intelligent edge is gathering more and more and more momentum, meaning there's a lot more of these devices connecting to your networks. And I think this is the biggest challenge that I think businesses have today is, okay, if that's the case, it doesn't matter what I'm doing or how I'm preparing for it. I mean, if you're a healthcare company, you work with your insurance companies, you're connecting to them. You're working with the patient, you're connecting with them. You're working with the physicians and the specialists, you're connecting with them. Well, your data better be secure, but they're also going to be sending things like MRIs and scans across this network. And that's big traffic. And it's about the connectivity. And of course, an enormous amount of data traffic. All right, having said all that, so how do you manage all this? If you're a business owner, what is it that you need to make sure that this works? Because again, it's about providing your users with access to their information that they need. And for us, it's all about the software. And honestly, it's really about that traffic management. Because if you think about it, if the software understands the links that you have in your business, and these links could be anything, right? They could be links from a Verizon, it could be a cable link, it could be a dedicated link, an MPLS link, it could be a wireless link, LTE link, satellite link, broadband. But if the software knows about these links, then surely it'll be able to manage the traffic across these links. Because if we think about it for a sec, the software is constantly looking, saying, okay, I know what links I've got here. And the traffic's backing up behind it saying, all right, software, here's the traffic. You better manage it across all these links. Because when we think about, the traffic flows to and from a device through all these links. So the software, and this is key, the software needs to know, okay, how do I identify this traffic? What do I need to do to be able to make sure that this traffic is identifiable so that I can send it to its destination across these links? And as we are all agreed, I'm assuming we all agreed that, the security of the traffic is very important. This software better know how to secure this traffic before and even when it arrives, or before it even leaves the device. And then, of course, we need to prioritize and manage it now. And I've taken the liberty of just including a small little snapshot of FatPipe's software suite. And I just want you to look at two things here. One is the load balancing highlighted section. This is where FatPipe's intelligence software identifies and gets to know what the links are all about. It's got algorithms, route test. What it's really doing is it's saying, I will use certain algorithms to test these links. It doesn't matter what they are. I'll test them, make sure they're up, make sure they're healthy, make sure they're not getting overloaded. I'll do route tests on an ongoing basis. So if something happens, I can dynamically load balance. Because if I know what the links are and I know what they are and how they are implemented, I know their speeds, then I can manage this traffic. And that's the second highlighted section there under routing. And this is what FatPipe does. So we can then say, we can apply policies to this traffic. So as the data hits this software suite, it says, okay, what do you want me to do? Well, it's priority traffic. It needs to go to Office 365 in the cloud. Okay, but I want you to give more priority to Office 365 than you give to Skype. Okay, we can manage that. The software says, okay, fine. How much more? 60%, 80%? And this is where FatPipe, so you can set those policies using our software suite. So I'm not going to get into the software suite today, but just to let you know that this is how it's doing it. This is how traffic is being managed in the modern WAN today, especially with software like FatPipe's. So I kind of gave the best of breed SD-WAN solutions, and we came up with a list. And these are the kind of things that you as a business more than likely will come up against, right? If you've got a network, you more than likely have some existing links that you're probably still paying for and have some lifespan with them. In other words, they're not going to expire for some time. And there's a lot of MPLS out there. We know how that is. And you must be able to work with this. Otherwise, what's the point? You surely need to be able to work with multiple links. And it should be any type of link, a copper, cable, fiber, it doesn't matter. Even 5G, and of course, satellite. You should be able to work with any of those type of links. So if you've got a software solution that you're looking at or an SD-WAN solution you're looking at, it should be able to recognize any of those types of links. And then, of course, if things go wrong, it should be able to load balance and failover both in and outbound traffic. Not just outbound traffic, which is a lot of what our SD-WAN vendors out there in the market space do. But it should do both, because if you've got traffic coming in, what happens if you're a school and at exam time and these kids are all logging in at the same time, and I'm based here in Salt Lake City, my son goes to the University of Utah, there's 30,000 kids in the University of Utah. What if they all hit that network at the same time? That's inbound traffic. You should be able to load balance that inbound traffic. You should be able to make sure that it's well managed so that the kids don't go down when they're trying to do a test or something. And of course, for VoIP and video, which is larger traffic, for want of a better word, it uses more bandwidth, right? VoIP and video. But you don't want the call to go down if you're using VoIP. So your SD-WAN solution should manage that. And it should do it by allowing you as a customer to set thresholds for whatever the traffic type is. And for the most part, a lot of SD-WAN vendors sell their solutions as we can do application management. But they forget that there's a lot more other ways to do this, right? You can use it by specific protocols. What if it's just TCP traffic that you want to manage? What happens if it's just your high bandwidth line that you want to manage? Maybe you want to share some bandwidth with other lines that you already have. Or maybe it's just the interface that you have traffic management requirements. It should be doing that if you want a best of breed SD-WAN solution. And it should be able of managing this traffic securely. And that's a no-brainer. If it doesn't do this securely, if it's not encrypting the right traffic over the right type of links, then it's definitely not an SD-WAN solution you should even look at. And it should be priority, and it should have selective capabilities. Meaning, what if you've got multiple links and the traffic goes across an MPLS link, which is frankly already secure, so why do you need to encrypt the data? But you've also got a broadband link where you definitely need to encrypt the data. What if your software is intelligent enough to say, well, I will only encrypt data that's going across the broadband link? But if you're a healthcare institution, it doesn't matter. You have to encrypt the data no matter what type of link you've got. Well, the software better be able to recognize that as well. And lastly, remember number 2, which the biggest issue was, it's simple, easy to use and manage. If it's not, then nobody's going to implement it. And these are the key attributes that I think are very, very important for customers implementing, looking at, or updating their networking solutions. I'd like to hand over back to Ken now. And Ken, do you want to take us through why FatPipe is more than an SD-WAN? And you just let me know when you want the first click to go through.
Okay. All right. Can everybody hear me?
We can.
Good. Thank you. All right. So, yeah, so you can click to the next one. So, like I said, and Neil mentioned, it is kind of confusing out there. So why is FatPipe Networks more than just an SD-WAN? Well, first of all, I mean, we've been around for a long time. It's been almost 20 years since we started the company. Actually, the owner started the company, starting off with some very, very basic, simple load balancing for 56K modems. If you can imagine that, for a whopping 128. So, and obviously we've progressed with communications and the capacities and bandwidth and everything. So, and we were actually SD-WAN before SD-WAN was cool. And that's actually Gartner that said that. So, we worked with Gartner on a lot of the products that we produce in our software. And they were very impressed with what we were doing, and we were doing it before anybody else even thought about calling it SD-WAN. So we've also got 12 seminal patents, which really enable us, and I think Neil hit on it a little bit about some of our algorithms, and they are very powerful. There's a lot of functionality that's out there that people use. There's some basic load balancing and auto failover, but when you really need to go in and start having some very granular, powerful, advanced tools to be able to check links for latency, packet jitter, that's where our patents really start coming in to helping with that load balancing and that threshold-based failover. We're highly secure. We're FIPS 140-2 certified, so anything is government related, we can help that, but it also helps really just with any customer knowing that we've been able to meet those standards for the government, so we can we can meet any standards that are out there. What's good about our products and solutions is that they can be used either in an OpEx or a CapEx solution. It's just a matter of determining what your company is comfortable with and how you want to use your own money. And I think as Neil mentioned, what's important about what we do is that we support any link type, any speed up to 40 gigabytes in one single device. So that doesn't matter whether the links are cable, fiber, wireless, satellite, MPLS, it doesn't matter. That's why we're a hybrid solution. And even companies that are migrating away from one solution, maybe they're migrating from MPLS, want to start using other forms, they want to use a backup as a wireless solution and satellite, we can integrate all of those in there in the same device, so it saves you some money. We're also cloud approved, which you can read from Azure, Google, and AWS. It is very easy to install. Everyone that I talk to says it's probably one of the easiest solutions that it is to install and frankly to manage. So we have a very powerful GUI that you can go in and see where the different components of it and how it can be programmed and managed. One of the key things that we talk about with a lot of companies is with the growth of VoIP, video conferencing, video surveillance, we do not drop VoIP calls. And that's one of the leading features that we talk about with companies when you're switching from one line to another. And with our algorithms, and we're checking the quality of lines, it's important that when you have that VoIP session going on, or that video conference session, or even you're using video surveillance, we can switch the session from one line to another within milliseconds, and the VoIP and that call does not, and that session does not end.
Thanks, Ken. I'll take this back because the next slide is a personal achievement for me, and that is we did some work with Gartner, and Gartner sent out a survey to our customers, and it is their survey, not ours. So Gartner surveyed FatPipe customers across the world, and this survey is saying, what do you think of FatPipe? What do you think of their product, their pricing, deployment, service support, all that kind of stuff? And we got 4.8 out of 5, and we were very proud of this. And not only are we proud of it, 100% of those surveyed said that they would recommend us. And FatPipe was number one when it came to that particular category, because only 86% said they would recommend Cisco, and 59% said they would recommend VeloCloud from VMware. So we're very proud of this. And, you know, the fact of the matter is we are a company that's been around a long, long time. And we have had enormous advancements to our product simply because our customers have been telling us what they needed to do. And we have a very mature, very capable solution. I'll hand it back to you, Ken, if you want to describe what we term as our single endpoint outbound load balancing solution.
So yeah, so you know, with our devices here, the outbound load balancing is really a single endpoint. So it really, these devices connect to any internet access, as we mentioned, whether it's fiber, copper, wireless. The load balancing outbound session, it's a combination of 6 dynamic outbound load balancing algorithms. So it really gives you the power to be able to, within milliseconds, reprioritize and reset the communication links that you have, and all of the lines are all running active simultaneously. So there's no active passive where it's got to flip over. We are doing this dynamically in real time. So it's an amazing way of being able to have virtually 100% uptime. And the key things you want to, you know, kind of think and know about, you know, our devices is that it can replace a traditional router. We do provide those routing capabilities in it, as well as the load balancing and some of our security features. As we mentioned, it dynamically load balances the traffic across all the links. It can set the traffic management policies based on multiple criteria, whether it's protocol, interface, application, or the destination and origination IP address. So it's got a lot, and that's why I always talk with people when I say, you know, when you talk about the advent of SD-WAN, and so many people talk about SD-WAN, everybody does SD-WAN. But when you really get down to it, many of the companies that out there provide the SD-WAN, they're only providing some basic functionality, and usually it falls into load balancing and auto failover, and it's not in real time, it's not dynamic, and it is not always an active situation. And if it is, and you're switching from one line to another, the concern is with, like I mentioned before, any of the VoIP calls, you know, do those calls stay up? So it's important to find out, you know, from your provider and understand what your your specific needs are to help alleviate any of the confusion around what you're trying to accomplish and what the solution is going to do for you personally.
Thanks, Ken. Here's another use case study, and I put this one in simply because it's an example of, you know, FatPipe's capabilities. This is Sitel. It's a global call center. It's got 75,000 agents in 108 countries, and they provide business process outsourcing. And they use FatPipe. Why? Simply because it's VoIP. I mean, can you imagine if a call is dropped and you are managing hundreds of thousands of calls, and a call is dropped and you paid by solving a solution, you are paid for every call that is got a resolution to it. If you keep dropping them, can you imagine that this is highly expensive? So they decided to install FatPipe, and they've been a customer of ours for quite some time now, because we can fail over in a sub-second any type of traffic, including VoIP, as Ken mentioned. We can load balance across all the different links that the company has and across the globe. All right, they're in 108 countries. So at the end of the day, the call is not dropped. The end user is not disconnected from the call, which means this particular BPO company continues to make good margins. If you don't have a call and you keep dropping calls, you don't get paid. And you don't have to reboot if in fact the call is dropped, declare the network, and of course the agent is talking about this. So where to next with us? Well, as I mentioned earlier, we've got lots of patents, and we've just obtained 2 new ones. They're going through the process of getting patented by the patent office here in the US, on flat networking, which simply means, we can work with just about any kind of network. We can work on single site, multi-site, flat networks, hybrid networks. It doesn't matter. All we're really doing, folks, is we're managing your traffic. That's what it means. We are managing the traffic, and we are managing it in a secure manner, and we are giving the flexibility to the customer. The customer says, I want this type of traffic to go over this type of link, or I want to give this type of traffic specific priority over certain links. And if that link reaches a certain threshold, then fail it over or share that traffic with a different type of link, so that I can provide my end users with the information and the data that they need instantly and all the time. Because that's, at the end of the day, is what it's all about. And to me, this is what FatPipe does. We manage the traffic on a network, and we do it and we give it in such flexibility to the customer that they can set their own priorities and thresholds that suits their particular business needs. All right, quick summary. That was a mouthful. By the way, I really prefer doing it face-to-face because I love having questions, and I'm sure we'll get some at the end, but I do appreciate your time with us. So for me, it's really about the traffic management, right? The data resides in many, many different locations. It could be in the cloud, it could be on-premise. It doesn't matter to FatPipe. Bandwidth is cheaper. I had a discussion with somebody the other day. My son lives here in Salt Lake City, and he has access to Google Fiber. He pays $70 a month for a gig. 15 years ago, T1 was $1,000 a month. T1 was barely a meg. So bandwidth is getting cheaper. But all that means is that more and more and more devices are going to connect to your networks. And if that's going to happen, you better make sure that your information and your data that is critical to your business is secure. As I've said so many times on this call, the user wants accessibility and reliability to the data that they are getting all the time. And folks, it's got to be easy to manage. If I've got a WAN administrator on this call, it has to be easy to manage, because you don't want to spend hours and hours. And I just got a quick story. I've only been at FatPipe a short period of time, but I happened to be in Vegas visiting one of our customers, who is a hotel. And this hotel had a problem. They had a failure in their particular link, thanks to a lot of construction in Vegas. And they phoned several SD-WAN vendors because they were down. And in Vegas, if your internet connections are down, you're not making a cent. So they phoned several vendors, 3 in fact, and we were the 3rd they phoned. They said, we need to get up and running now. So luckily enough, we live in Salt Lake, so we flew down there in an hour, and we had them up and running in 4 hours. But how easy is it to manage? I spoke to the CTO about 4 years. It's been 4 years since that particular incident. And I said, so can we use you as a case study? He said, I'm not quite sure who you are. And I said, well, I'm FatPipe. He says, oh, FatPipe, yeah. Turns out this is a new CTO, and he had not even been aware that he had FatPipe in there because it's just been working. How easy to manage? He just simply upped his support contract, and he says, I leave these things alone because they just work. Because it's about the software. I was going to put something really rude here, and I'm glad that Ken changed it. I was going to, the keep it simple, the KISS metaphor. Well, I say it's the software, and he put silly, but there's another word there that that could be used. So when you are looking at solutions, if you are a business owner and you're considering how do I get maximum performance from my network, how do I make sure my customers have access to the information they need on an ongoing basis all the time, and it's secure, you need to be able to make sure that the software solution you choose has the best possible traffic management capabilities. And that is it. Once again, thank you to Maureen Data Systems. We really appreciate your support and for putting this webinar on. Appreciate it. But back to you.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone for joining our call. Is there any questions that you have for Ken and Neil? No? Okay, so that's fine. If you end up having any questions particular to your organization and how SD-WAN and FatPipe can help, feel free to reach out to me. Everyone should have my contact information, but I will be sending around a thank you email with the presentation, the recording, and some more collateral. We will also be following up with you within the next few weeks. So if anything does arise, just feel free to reach out. I know a few of you are customers of MDS, so if you would like to consult with your account manager, you can also feel free to do that. So if there's no question, we'll let you get about 15 minutes back in your day, and I appreciate everyone for jumping on.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Are you still on, Sam? No, okay.